Did you know that pyromancy, the art of divination by fire, was once a banned practice? Seriously. It is also one of the oldest ways on record of humans attempting to communicate with spirit. However, in medieval times, pyromancy was classified as one of the 7 forbidden arts that were outlawed by religious canon. Now, if you don't know what divination is, it can be the practice of trying to predict the future through some means. However, at its most basic level, it means to use random objects in our existence to be inspired by, or receive guidance from, the divine. So what can we learn about ourselves and spirit by studying this primordial element? Better yet, what can we learn from fire to enrich our own spiritual lives? Well, if we do a comparison, we quickly realize that fire has many similarities to the living and to the divine. It's similar to us in that it has a beginning and an end, and thereby considered living or mortal. It has to be created, whether by human hand or supernatural event. Fire has to be created, and it can be extinguished or killed. It is the only element that humans can create or snuff out. For this reason, fire is considered to be a bridge between the mortal and the divine. We're not able to make more dirt, nor are we able to create more air or water. However, we can create and put out fire. Like all sentient beings, fire has a birth and a death. It's also considered living or mortal because just like us, fire has to breathe. It breathes in and expels air. Fire cannot survive any more than we can without oxygen. Not only does it need oxygen to survive, but it also has to have something to consume. Like all living beings, fire needs something to consume in order to fuel itself. And fire will consume everything in its path until there's nothing left. Once there's nothing left to consume, the fire dies out. Fire is also symbolic to humans in that it signifies our passions, zeal, personal drive, and desires. Most humans cannot live, thrive, or fully express themselves without a spiritual connection or a passion that drives our innate desire to create. Fire is a symbol for the divine light that burns within us and represents our innermost desires, enthusiasm, creativity, motivation, and intention. Unless we have something passionate to live for, we live very unhappy or unfulfilling lives. Buddha reminded us of this with his famous quote, "Just as a candle cannot burn without fire, men cannot live without a spiritual life." Now, in regards to what we can learn about spirit from fire, well, this concept is nothing new. Humans have equated fire to the divine all throughout history. Earlier I mentioned the ancient practice of pyromancy, where fire was used as a means of divination. Practitioners claimed to receive messages by meditating on or staring into the flames, or interpreting the size, shape, color, and intensity of the flames or smoke. In many ancient civilizations, from Africa to the world's indigenous, fire was considered a sacred element that was only obtained by humans after it was stolen from the gods. In biblical texts, one of the first references of fire equating to God comes in the form of a burning bush that speaks with Moses. The Israelites were also led in their exodus from Egypt at night by God in a pillar of fire. In all esoteric writings, fire was essential in the process of alchemical transformation. Alchemical transformation is where you take something, put it through a mutation process, and it then becomes something completely new. In sacred texts throughout history, fire has always symbolized a birth, death, and a rebirth process. It is also a symbol for life's trials, baptism, and purification, hence the phrase baptism or trial by fire. That can be applied to real life? Well, we know that fire signifies our innermost passions, what drives us, and our inner light. It's that spark within us that continuously burns and brings us back to source. It's that light within us that brings life to thought, creativity, and new ideas. It has to be tended to, stoked, fed, and guarded, or it will die out. So just with this analogy alone, we can learn to focus on our passions, find what drives us, and how we can express ourselves and our creativity fully. We have to continually tend to and feed our passions, stoking them and keeping them aflame, or that inner light within us will die out. We know that fire is essential to the process of alchemical transformation. Alchemical transformation can be equated to the same process one endures during spiritual transformation. It's going through various stages to obtain an inner awakening or spiritual enlightenment. So we can therefore say that fire, or walking through the fire, is essential to this process of spiritual transformation, meaning we have to hold true to the light within us as we endure life's fires, or the various stages of spiritual transformation. Breaking free from the ego is a painful process that involves many births, deaths, and rebirths. Going through this process is what stokes the flame within us and reunites us back to the divine, or the eternal flame of consciousness. So when we have these trials, know that they are divinely orchestrated and essential for our own spiritual transformation. And lastly, in my opinion, I believe there is some truth to the practice of pyromancy. I don't know if you can necessarily predict the future that way. However, I do know that many cultures meditate while staring at flames. I know I've personally done it, and it does allow you to enter a more aware or connected state of consciousness. I have meditated on the attributes of fire, on my own personal passions, and how to stoke them to keep that flame alive. I know there is an ever-burning flame within me that constantly wants to come back to the eternal flame or source energy. Understanding the part that fire, or enduring life's fires, plays in the spiritual transformation process has allowed me to look at these trials in a different way. I no longer have the victim, woe is me mentality about those situations. I now understand that they play an important part in my spiritual evolution, so it becomes easier to dissect when things happen to determine what I can learn and apply moving forward. After all, we are all spiritual beings having an earthly experience. We came here to view and experience the world around us so we can grow and evolve. We literally can learn anything about ourselves, our lives, and the spirit by working with the world around us. I hope you take some time to meditate on fire to see what you can learn and apply to your own life. Thank you for tuning in, The Rebellious Gem.